A 10,000-year-old fossil, 15,000 bicycles, a ship sunk on top of another, and even a supposed apparition of a mermaid. These are just some of the most bizarre things that have been found in rivers, ponds, and lakes around the world in recent years. I'm sure you'll be impressed with all of them, but before we start, leave your like down below. Don't subscribe to forget, and come with me, because I'm Tiago Tadeo, and welcome to the Upside Down. New York's monster. In 2012, a woman named Denise Ginley was running along the waterfront in New York when she spotted something terrible amidst a pile of trash and wreckage. A bizarre, deformed creature that didn't look like anything she'd seen before. Desperate with her discovery, she called the authorities, who removed the animal from there. The police department called it a pig, but it was never really identified. And as there are no clear answers to this mystery to this day, people speculate a lot about what might have happened, with the most bizarre of them saying that a company that works with genetics and DNA studies, which is very close to the beach, would be carrying out forbidden experiments and discarding them in the oceans. That one would have been brought back to the current and got stuck on the beach. For obvious reasons, the company never would have commented on the case. What is your opinion on this case? Do you think it really is a pig? Or is it something very surreal involving studies and genetic modification? Unique shipwreck. Well guys, a shipwreck, despite being very tragic, is something relatively common since the beginning of the Great Navigations, right? But in the case that we are going to see now, it was found in the Hudson River, and it would really impress anyone. In a single place, two wrecked vessels were found, one exactly on top of the other, the first being more modern, but the one below it was a very old ship. The chances of something like this happening are extremely low. There are two main hypotheses of what actually happened here. The first one is the most unlikely. It's just that the region isn't usually that deep. The first vessel sank due to a storm, and the second ended up having the misfortune to tear its side when it collided with it, which ended up leaving it stuck there as well. The other hypothesis, which would be more impressive, believes that by some very gigantic chance, the two boats ended up sinking for different reasons in the same place, where the second ended up resting just above the first. Tell me in the comments, do you think the first boat passed, ended up ripping its side, and it sank in place there, getting stuck? Or was it just a fluke of a chance? That was it, and the two stayed in the same place. I want to know your opinion. Inhabitants of the sewer. Well guys, in this next topic here, I want to stretch an idea a little, but it's all a matter of interpretation, okay? You will understand, the event in this case occurred inside the sewer, which is not necessarily a river, but its structure is very reminiscent of the shape of a river in many cases. Just for this topic here, we are going to treat a sewer as a kind of river, okay? But it will all be worth it in the end, I assure you. I'm talking about an event that happened in 1984, where a gigantic Nile crocodile was found in a sewer in a very busy area near the Newf Bridge. The animal was found by cleaning workers who were working nearby, and called in vets and firefighters to remove the animal. To this day, there is still a big mystery as to how this crocodile got there. But the main hypothesis is that he probably spent his entire life there. He may have entered through a barred passage when he was still very young and ended up growing in there and developing, feeding on the few animals he found there. The animal was hastily moved from there and was taken to a zoo where it was treated with much more attention. This is not the first case of crocodiles in sewers in the world. In New York, events like this are even part of local folklore. You must have seen a movie where it portrayed a crocodile in the sewer, or you have heard it in your childhood. I have. I was scared, of the storm drains. I was afraid a crocodile would come out of there. Well, in New York, there is a very famous legend that a citizen was trying to raise some baby crocodiles in his small apartment. But when he realized the size they would have when they grow up, and mainly the mountains of food that he would have to give it to the animals, the citizen ended up giving up on keeping the animals, and for fear of the law, because it's forbidden to have such an animal in the house, the man just threw the crocodiles into the manhole on the streets. The tale states that since then, they have inhabited the sewers, and some people believe that there are even several of them there. Well, I want to know if you've heard of this, because it's not possible that I'm the only one who's heard about this crocodile thing, right? Mermaid found? Take a good look at this photo. It looks very realistic, doesn't it? Yeah, it was recently published on the internet by someone who would have found a mermaid and photographed this amazing apparition. Despite there being two types of people in this world, those who believe and those who don't believe, the person who published this swears up close that this mermaid is real. But of course, due to the lack of material and only one image, we can't say if it is or it isn't. I didn't find any more information on the forums where this photo was posted, just that it was allegedly real. But I want to ask something. Do you think mermaids exist, and that this was a real mermaid that was photographed? Leave your opinion here in the comments. Cyclist fishing. That Amsterdam is known as the city of bicycles, everyone knows. But you know, it's very easy to do that there, since the whole city is practically in a straight line, with no ups or downs. Something very different from what we see in Brazil, with hills all over, which doesn't make it very easy to connect an entire city. Plus, you would also have to have a lot of energy too. Because of this, the use of bicycles as the main mean of transport for the population is something that occurs in a very natural way. It is believed that there are about 2 million bicycles in the city, and there are only 780,000 inhabitants there. There are more than twice as many bikes per person there. I imagine that as it is the main means of transport, it is quite common for them to always have more than one bicycle ready to use there, right? People are there ready to go to work, grab the bike and set off. It turns out that not all people are environmentally conscious, even though they use bicycles, and when it no longer has any use, they end up dumping it anywhere they find. In 2018, during a general cleaning through the city's canals, more than 15,000 bicycles were simply discarded in the canal. This was something so impressive at the time that the population even invented a sport there. It's called cyclist fishing, where you enter some part of the channel and try to get out of there with the bike in your hands to help with cleaning efforts. Of course, in the end, this practice ended up being discouraged, as it is quite dangerous to try to enter waters infested with rusty metal to get a bike out of there, right? Today, there are companies specialized in the area of canal bike removals, using adapted cranes to carry out the work in the best manner. I'll tell you, these people are creative, right? But what a pity they're discarding bikes in the wrong place. Mammoth tooth. Guys, in this topic here, we're going to talk about Dawson Hefner, who is a tour guide who works in the state of Texas, mainly with tours around the Trinity River. This is a very interesting place to visit, as it is one of the most crowded archaeological sites to visit on the planet. However, for most of the year, the Trinity River remains in a flooded state there, filled entirely with water. Thus, the exploration becomes very complicated, only in some specific times where tourism occurs there, specifically when the water level of the Trinity drops, exploring a gigantic amount of landmass that can now be explored for its fossils. The case of the funniest find of all that happened there was exactly Guy Dawson's, who was looking for stones in his free time. For whom? For his daughter, so she could use it for a school project, if you can believe it. He gathered a handful of them in a bucket and took them home at the end of the day. But guys, when he started to give them to his daughter, he noticed that one of the stones there was very strange. It even had different textures from the others. Impressed, he decided to keep that one for himself, and the rest was more than enough for the girl. It turns out that a few months later, he would end up meeting with a fellow archaeologist who went to his house and identified that fossil the moment he laid his eyes on it. The strange stone was actually an intact tooth from a mammoth that lived there more than 10,000 years ago. Can you believe it? You pick up rocks and come out with the fossil. Naughty fish. I am sure that if you are a man, you will never have the courage to enter any river in the state of Amazons. This is because we are talking about a fish that exists in those waters that has a dark habit that is capable of traumatizing anyone. I'm talking about a little fish known as candiru, which is a subspecies of catfish. Only this one is one of nature's vampires. It turns out that instead of coming for the neck, it comes inside the male genitalia. He comes and goes whoosh. Yeah, well, I know I said it was kind of traumatizing. The first recorded case of its kind happened in a local hospital was of a boy who was near a river in Amazonas and had a strong desire to urinate. So he did. Well, something that we all would have, right? And relieved himself right there. But during the process, he said he felt a kind of prickling, almost as if a knife had hit him right there. At the time, he didn't realize what had happened. He just got out of the water and, well, went on with his life. But a few hours later, things started to get worse. The boy began to feel unbearable pain in his private parts and ended up being brought to the hospital by ambulance because he was having trouble even walking. Upon arriving there and being examined by the doctors, it was found that the kangaroo fish had entered his urinary canal and invaded his parts, where he began to chew to feed there. Remember I said it's a vampire fish? Well, it so happens that this is one of the most vascularized parts of the young person's body, which to the eyes of this fish sounds like a real feast, right? With great difficulty and pain, and also with the help of some medicine, the boy managed to get rid of the fish. Lit does not represent that much danger. Besides, of course, the unbearable pain and a possible infection. The important thing is to always seek help as soon as possible, because you know, it can get worse. And if it's any consolidation, to calm you down, there's actually a good way to prevent this from happening to you. If you go there, which is to use swimming trunks, since the attack was only possible on the boy because he lowered everything he was wearing in the water to relieve himself there discreetly. It can be avoided. Even so, I think I would still stay far away from any type of water. When it came to take a shower, I would get in there and look at the shower and say, put a sieve in there, I'm not trusting any water today. Nuh-uh. It rained today? We're already like, after this one, I'll be very careful, folks. But that's it. This video will end here. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a new video every day here on the channel. Until next time, peace.